Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot and a member of PMDG's tech team. The latter though we'll need to leave back for a little bit because obviously non-disclosure agreement. So today we are going to have a look into the PMDG 777 updates, because on the 27th of January Robert Randazzo has finally posted the first couple of flight deck previews from the upcoming Boeing 777. Now obviously we are hard at work beta testing it already and there is lovely progress going on behind the scenes, but more than that, and I'm probably not going to see beta anymore. So, as always, the original update is going to be linked in the video description below, so if you prefer reading rather than listening, then do head over to the PMDG forums. You'll find the link to the update preview in the description below. So, there's also some information in there as to why it took PMDG a little bit longer to actually provide those next previews. After all, it's been almost 3 weeks since the last one was issued on the, I believe, 6th of January. So things did take a while, but there is a very good explanation for that, and I will try to provide a little bit of insight into that explanation based on past announcements and comments made by the PMDG team. But how about we dive directly into what we've got with the latest PMDG update over here. So, as always, Robert Randazzo himself is also a pilot, so things can sometimes just not work out with flying schedules. I do see that myself all of the time, and the same was the case with him, but there's been some more interesting stuff there in that they had a portion of the PMDG team together on a research trip related to the next project line. Now it is worth mentioning over here they're talking about a project line and not just a single project. So chances are we are talking about another aircraft that they have researched over there. So to go into that a little bit, sometimes for flight sim developers it does take a long time to actually get an appointment scheduled with an airline in order to be able to survey an aircraft or just to record from an aircraft or whatever you want to do with the real thing. Sometimes it takes up to half a year to actually schedule these things, and if you then don't manage to hold that date, well, that is not going to be good. So for that reason, a part of the PMDG team has been out to do some research on a new project line that's going to come who knows when, but personally I'm guesstimating they've had the chance to do another survey on a MAX over here. That's just speculation though, because remember on my PMDG 737-900 live stream where Robert said that the MAX is going to come at some point, eventually before or after the 777, maybe before the 747. So I kind of guess they had a chance to validate something on a 737 MAX over here, but that is of course just speculating. We might as well just speculate about them serving a 777X or maybe a 787 or maybe an Airbus A350, who knows? Alright, so let's go back to the exact update that we've got for the actual 777 that you can see on the screen over here. There's been 4 pictures posted in PMDG's update, and they also gave a little bit of a detailed preview about what's going on behind the scenes at the moment. So I do think it's best I'm simply going to quote Robert on that part over here, and he says, quote, "The 777 beta process continues at speed with another beta having been delivered to the team last night. The last couple of weeks have seen us focused on finding and killing some conflicts between our C++ code and the Clang compiler. Clang, which is used by Microsoft Flight Simulator, is a bit less graceful in how it handles certain problems that naturally appear in the life of source code, so it is important to capture and kill these conflicts as they result in stability issues for the end user, which we do not want. The beta team has been magnificent in helping us replicate the events we've seen and then verify through testing that the fixes are proper. As we begin to look forward to release, we are in the process of creating detailed preview images and yes, even some video. Look for these to begin rolling out here. This is a natural indication that we are feeling pretty good about the overall project and starting to thumb through the calendar for suitable release timelines. As with the 737 initial release, we will give you some warning, and once we feel the date is fixed, I will share the date with you. Currently we have a window, but that window is fairly wide as we still have some features in the stack to be added to the project that haven't been implemented yet, and we want to get through those. This week was planned to be the Flighdeck preview weekend, but I've had Vin on the road for quite a bit in the past 2 weeks, so instead of a full Flighdeck preview, I asked Vin if he would give me a few images showing off some detail level that makes him particularly happy. Vin has been modeling the cockpits of PMDG products since 2001, and like Jason, he has spent a lot of time over those 23 years with those nose pressed to images and diagrams, looking at fine details that previous simulators couldn't possibly model well. With Maxed Up Flight Simulator, however, the game changed, and since each product line is a learning experience, the 777 has benefited tremendously from the experience we gained with the DC-6 and the 737. We have been able to leverage our industry resources, data collection, technology, and raw skill present in Vin and Jason to create what we think is the finest 777 simulation yet created outside of the Enterprise environment. So let me interrupt the quote here for a moment. This is where we do get to see the very first picture in the update, and honestly this is a magnificent looking picture. So I'll first read to you what Robert says about it, and then I'll probably add in a little bit of personal detail in here that I do think is worth mentioning there. So, quote, "You can see the subtleties in detailing inside the core switches in this image, with a slightly rounded surface that unrolls to expose the status indication underneath with the switch is pushed to its locked position. Likewise, you can see the subtle structures of the spring mechanism that works to close the switch guard on the left and right fuel dump nozzles. I've disassembled core switches for Vin so that he can see how these mechanisms work, and that helps him to build a simulation of the animation that looks proper and functions correctly." Quote end. Alright, so this is something that indeed we've seen with the 777 back in P3D already, even though not in as high of a detail level that we've got in here. If you take a look at the entire mechanism, how the switch is connected, then I can tell you that thing looks pretty great. Now, the switch itself is split into two parts. You can see the lower part down there, which, if you have a look, for example, at the right pump forward fuel pump switch down there, or at the left wing anti-ice switch, you can see that that is actually a switch light that's included in there. So we've got the pressure indication or the off indication lighting up over there. But then if you have a look at the wing anti-ice part, then you can see the top one, the on switch. That is actually not a light or anything the likes. Well, it is backlighted, of course, but that's not like a digital indication on the switch. But that is a simple text, like you've got text on any of the other parts of the Flighdeck. And the way this works is when you press the switch down, then that little cover that you can see in the top part of the switch is there, very nicely visible on the fuel jettison arm switch in the middle on the right hand side there. If you press that switch down, then that cover rolls to the side and unveils the permanent on text that is written below it. And that is how Boeing made the dark Flighdeck concept here. If there is anything wrong, like the fuel pump pressure drops low or the wing anti-ice is switched off while the switch is in the on position, then lights come on to illuminate even in the dark, or even just to draw your attention by being a little bit brighter than the standard on text that you would read on the switches when the cover is moved to the side. Now, back in P3D, we already saw that starter switch in the PMDG 777s, and you had a very nice animation actually attached to it. So when you moved the switch, then you could see how it moved in. The cover slowly came to the side. Well, slowly, obviously, then went pretty quickly when you push the switch at a normal pace. But you could see the cover go to the side and unveil that on text, and that was a pretty cool animation that PMDG had actually simulated in there. Now, let's go on to the next picture, and the next picture is one that we can see from the back wall of the Flighdeck, and that's the emergency locator transmitter. So let's go ahead and read what Robert says about this, and then I'll add my personal take on it as well. So, quote, "Another area we're really happy with is the fine detailing of surfaces and the use of material quality to give them a lifelike look in sim. You can see in this image the texturing of the Velcro strap is quite fine, and the vapor permissive surface on the bulkhead upon which the device is mounted really stands out when you get up close to it in the sim. Subtle details of the screw head and the joint piping are also present, and these details really bring together the entire Flighdeck, even though you might not notice them individually at first." Now that's something that I can personally, quote end by the way, that's something that I can personally only really sign. often small details tend to get missed, like when you look around the flight deck of the 737 or when you look around the flight deck of the Phoenix A320, for example, then there's lots of very small things. When you go really close up, then you start seeing detail on them that you at a normal zoom level would probably not even have noticed individually. However, when all these things come together, that's when you get that lifelike looking, correctly looking cockpit. I did notice that myself when, like, 10 years back I created a new cockpit environment for the Aerosoft A320 back then, using mostly photorealistic textures. So, for example, I did all the surfaces of the switches by replacing them with textures created from actual photos, and immediately the entire flight deck started looking a lot more lifelike. And that is what we see in this picture over here as well. Take, for example, the reflections in the metal at the top of the ELT on which you would carry it. Take those slight reflections from the antenna that is bent to the back there. Or, for example, if you have a look a little bit further down where it says ADT 46 Sierra, just look to the side of it and see how it's getting a little bit more brighter from where the light actually shines in. That's a really good level of detail there. The device itself, obviously, you can see it's mounted pretty well into the cockpit door because, well, it's not meant to fly around, and these ELTs, they are rather heavy. But in case you would do crash landing anywhere and the airplane is on the risk of burning up, you would take that device out with you, and that provides at least 48 hours of radio communications with search and rescue teams, and it also provides a beacon that search and rescue teams can use in order to find the location of the crash site. Especially useful if you go down in a remote area or if you do a ditching and they are searching for you in deserts, in the wilderness, or in the ocean. Okay, cool. Now let's move on to the next picture, and that is actually starting to get a little bit more interesting because it does show some of the area of the flight deck that you will see a lot more, and this is what we're looking at. So, this is now the forward right part. We can see a couple of things on that picture. For example, first of all, we've got the working table down there. Airbus pilots laughing at you Boeing guys right now. And then, obviously, moving to the front, we can actually see the Universal Flight Tablet located there as well. Now, below the Universal Flight Tablet, you do see a little bit of a cover, and that is where Boeing would deliver the stock Boeing EFB in the airplane. But many airlines have actually replaced that stock Boeing EFB, put a cover on that, and then mounted their EFBs on that. Now, obviously, there is different configurations in the real 777. We don't yet know if PMDG is going to offer any options to move it around, but this is where they located the EFB for now. And, well, let's have a look at what Robert actually has to say about this picture. A few more, quote, a few more environmental images for you that show the high detail level in the cockpit surrounds. With the exceptional level of access we have through our industry partners, we have been able to go back and compare our results to the actual airplane to ensure that we capture the airplane properly, and I think we have certainly done that here. Details such as the window opening latching mechanism and the hardware that hold it together are really evident in this image, as well as the structure of the work table that can be folded down when needed. Indeed, fully have to sign that it's a pretty good looking image, especially if you look at those screws on the window latching mechanism there and how they're held in place. And for the technically skilled among you, yeah, I know it's technically not screws, but you know what I'm talking about. Also nice to see in this image, by the way, is the hand microphone that you can see on the lower left side of the picture there. Obviously, in cruise, pilots do like to take their headsets off because it's just awful to wear a headset for 12 hours at a time. And that's why you've got a hand microphone in most long-haul aircraft. So you would take that, and with that you could do radios without having to wear the headset all the time. Obviously, those aircraft are equipped with speakers throughout the entire cockpit environment. Personally, I've never flown a 777 in the real world, but surely not in a cockpit. But if I can take the A330 as somewhat of a reference here, it is a lot quieter than, for example, the 737. So it is actually possible to fly without headset on. You can put ATC up to a decent volume without blowing your ears off, and you're still going to get a very good ATC quality with that. Alright, let's move on to the last picture then that we have seen, and here it is for you guys. This is an overview of the aft part of the flight deck reaching all the way up forward to the captain's seat, and there is a lot of very fine details in this. Now, Let's start with what Rob is saying about it, and then I'll add a little bit of personal experience and detail to it. So, quote, "In this last image, my favorite standout details are the high-vis vest rumpled up in the storage locker to the right of the cockpit door and the bags present in the crew bag storage locker behind the captain's seat. There is also even quite a bit of detail in the headset storage locker above the captain's head. The non-skid straps on the shelf behind the captain's seat are also present, and the texturing is such that it almost seems like you can rub your hand along the rough surface. They are little things, but when seen as a whole, they really make the entire flight deck look and feel real." Quote end. Alright, that is really what I can fully sign upon. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it's the small details that come together. If we take another look through the entire picture over here, there's more things that we can see. We can start with the headset hanging next to the jump seats in the cockpit. Now, why is there a headset? Well, when you are operating in a crew environment with more than 2 cockpit crews, so if you've got a third or maybe even a fourth crew member in the cockpit on the very long haul flights, for example, when you're doing those Emirates flights from Dubai to the United States, that's certainly where you're going to fly with 2 full complements of crew. And many Asian carriers even do it on the somewhat shorter routes to Europe or on their routes to the US as well. So when you are flying with more than 2 crew members, every crew member on the cockpit needs to have a headset present. And it is quite an interesting choice of a headset they've done over here, seeing that you've got the earbud on the right hand side, and then on the left side you've just got something to actually place it above your ear, but it still enables you to listen to what's being said in the front of the cockpit, because in the 777 it is a little bit hard to reach for the audio control panel when you're sitting on the jump seat. Now on the A330 it's a bit easier to reach on the aft part of the overhead, but on the 777 it's a little bit harder to reach, and that's probably the reason they went for the choice of headset they did in there. Now, other parts you can see is the holder for the pilot's jackets in the back there, and you can also see a little bit of a kit that's located just below those, and that's probably some emergency medical kit or stuff like that. Now, what I find quite funny over here is how they stuffed the high-vis vest over into the locker up there. Now, Rob already pointed that out as a bit of a detail, and it absolutely is, because, well, obviously, normally, as a pilot, you're not meant to stuff the high-vis vests in like that, because once you take them out, they will definitely look like they need some ironing, and overall, you are definitely going to take that vest and you will probably have to walk all the way to the back of the plane through the entire passenger cabin with a vest looking like it's been ironed, you know, a year ago the last time. And, well, especially walking through the first and business class cabins, that's probably not the impression you want to come up with along your passengers. But nonetheless, there is a great amount of colleagues who just stuff the vest in like that. Especially if it's not their personal vest, but if it's a company vest, they just stuff it into the cockpit like that when they're done with the walk around, especially if it's been cold or particularly hot, and they just want to get rid of that stuff, plunge themselves into the seats, and put all the air ducts of the heating or cooling system respectively right on them. So, a little bit of very cool detail that we've got over here that is present in the PMDG 777 cockpit. Now, if we go ahead, then Robert finishes up his announcement saying that, quote, "We have a few busy weeks ahead of us still, and as we add in more of our planned features for this ship. We are absolutely certain she will meet even the highest expectations for 777 lovers and 777 interested simmers alike. I'm going to take a few hours to play with the dogs, then I'm back to working on my areas of the project while it is quiet around here and the rest of the team is enjoying their weekends. I get a lot done when it is quiet." Quote end. Alright, so that is the end of the update we've seen on the 27th of January of the PMDG Boeing 777. Lots of goodies shown there, indeed, and it's just a feeling, but looking especially at that first image, if we can just bring it up on the screen one more time, then that seems like they went one step further from the level of detail they had in the 737 cockpit. We've also seen a couple of first images of where things like the Universal Flight Tablet are located in the airplane, and we have seen a great general overview of the 777 cockpit. So, that's pretty much what we've got in this update. I can only say it looks really amazing, and obviously I'm not just saying it because I'm on the PMDG tag team, I am saying it because it is truly what I think it is. But if you think different, or if you agree with me, then do put it in the comments below the video. We do want to have a look at it from all sides. If there is critique that you want to voice about those shots, likewise put it in the videos. Personally, I don't think there is actually a lot that we can complain about in them, but I'm German, so I gotta find something. So if we do, then I will complain about that. We haven't seen any of the main panel yet, but I'm sure that is going to come in the future. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, then be sure to leave a like on YouTube, as it does really help out the channel, and leave a comment to let me know what you think about this one, and what you think about the looks of the PMDG 777 cockpit. I'm very much looking forward to your take on it, and what you guys think about it. Maybe my view is a little bit biased over here, maybe it is not. We'll have to see. I'm surely going to read through the comments and see if I might have been a bit biased over here. Alright, thank you very much, everyone, and if you're up for more, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'm very much looking forward to see you guys again on the next one. Finally, if you really like what I'm doing on the channel up here, would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link that you can find in the video description below. Thank you for watching, and see you all again on the next one.